Can you hear me? Yep, cool. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I've said hello to a few of you, but thank you all for being here. My name is Saxon. I'm a recruitment officer from the Faculty of Science. And I'm joined by a couple of other people from science this evening, my fellow recruitment officer colleagues who are out in the hall and Will up the front, and some of our academics at the Faculty of Science as well will be joining us throughout the night to talk about our graduate programs that we teach under the Faculty of Science. Hello. We'll go through a few housekeeping. This is just a 10-minute kind of introduction where we'll go through how the session is structured, because it's not as straightforward as maybe your traditional webinars and info sessions. Hang on. But before I do, I'd like to do just an acknowledgement of country. So today, for those joining us online, I'm speaking to you from the lands of the Wurundjeri and Bunurong peoples, from our Parkville campus. And I'd like to pay my respects to elders and descendants and traditional custodians of the land, both past and present, and in particular for science, pay respects to and acknowledge the fact that Indigenous Australians are Australians and we're Australia's first scientists and cultivators and play a key role in our faculty as well as the wider contributions to Australia and the world. And we hope to continue to include them more actively and listen to what they have to say more frequently than we have in the past. Wurundjeri is a Wurrung word for welcome, and this is at the edge of our Parkville campus, further towards the city. So tonight we've structured it in a way that if you don't want to be here for the entire session, you don't have to be, because we're going to talk about certain programs in blocks. So obviously at the moment we're starting with an introduction. I'm going to talk about Master of Biotechnology. And if you're not interested in biotechnology, you can come back to other sessions or stay for the entire thing. There'll be a small break in between the different topics. So you can either leave, and during the session for those in person, if you need to go to the bathroom or go get food, feel free to just get up and do so. But yeah, we're going to be covering the programs listed on the screen at those certain time periods, and we have academics coming in and speaking about those programs as well, where we've been able to organise them. Just some housekeeping. So this event is dual delivery. So we've got an audience online and in person with us tonight. So for those online, you can submit your questions via the Q&A function in Cvent, and my colleague will be answering those as best as possible. For those that we can't get to tonight due to the tight schedule, as displayed before, we will ask you to submit an inquiry so we can get around to you. If we do find that we have some time for questions, we will pose your questions to the room, unless our people in person also have questions that we need to answer. For people in person with us tonight, one-on-one consultations are available in the foyer. And this is available with people like myself who know a little bit about all the science programs in Melbourne, as well as some of our academics who will be outside in halls, typically after their sessions have completed. So once you've had a listen to what they have to say, you can go ask questions. Two of them have already joined us tonight, who you'll be able to speak to after they've spoken. But yeah, benefits of being here in person. Toilets are on the ground floor, down the stairs when you exit the room on the right, and then you can go down the left, and there's male and female bathrooms. And if you need access by the lift, you can also take the lift. Merchandise and brochures are available in the foyer. Feel free to grab as many of them as you like. They're there for you to take. And food is available. Please eat it during the session, or all the staff will be taking it. Programs not covered tonight. The Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, graduate research program. So this is PhD and Master of Philosophy. We will not be talking about the Master of Data Science or honours programs. These are covered in separate sessions, which you can access at the QR codes or the links above. We have a science graduate research webinar and a Master of Data Science webinar taking place next week. And we've already hosted our Doctor of Veterinary Medicine webinar series earlier in the year, and you can access the recordings at that link to guide you through the process for 2024. Otherwise, if there's a program here that we've missed tonight that you need to ask a question, come talk to us and we can organise an appointment, or you can submit an inquiry and we can help you out. Otherwise, I'd like to welcome you to the Faculty of Science. For over 160 years since the university was founded, we've been attracting the best and brightest of students, researchers, academics, professionals to make meaningful careers out of solving global challenges across a whole range of scientific disciplines. And we support them using our world-class teaching facilities. And in the Faculty of Science, we have about 60 different research groups that support that teaching behind what we take into the classroom, and also us being global contributors to solving these problems. Out of the 52,000 current students at the University of Melbourne, the Faculty of Science takes care of 15,000 of these, and about 41% of these are international students from over 150 different countries. So welcome to those joining us internationally online, and thank you for those who are also in person. We are the second largest faculty at the university, with 7 different schools, and out of the 7 different campuses the university has, we teach across 5 of them, with 4 of them purpose-built and dedicated to the Faculty of Science programs. So really kind of unique feature. At Science, there's a bit of a misconception that it's very theory-based at Melbourne, and I have this slide up here to explain that we don't adhere to that stereotype or that kind of idea. And we integrate many different, I guess, opportunities and teaching opportunities or learning opportunities throughout the programs to put your theory into practice. So throughout the night, I will talk about things like internships, industry projects, maybe STEM mentoring, overseas study, or professional skills subjects. These are an integral and a core part of all of our programs. So it'll be a little bit repetitive, but there's no program that we teach at a master's level that doesn't have opportunities related to the ones displayed on the screen. So if you're worried that it's all just going to be theory, it's not. Many of them have capstone experiences that relate to ensuring student success and applying the skills in the classroom. And this is where you could potentially apply those skills and learn some of this theory and these practical technical skills. So these are a picture of a few of our campuses. We have our Dookie Agricultural Campus, our Veterinary Sciences Campus in Werribee, dedicated to veterinary students. Obviously, we're not talking about that tonight, but it's a nice one to showcase, as well as some of our facilities in Parkville, including the Western Edge Biosciences building, completed in 2019, dedicated to the study of biological sciences. So we have great facilities, we have some fantastically designed programs, and we also have some pretty cool researchers and students who are trying to solve some tough challenges that the world is facing. I'm not going to go through these examples, but if you'd like to take a look at some of the work our researchers and students do, you can do so at pursuit.uni Melbourne. And these are all recent stories that have happened in the past 1 to 2 years that I've just highlighted. Facilities, rankings, facilities, teachers, students. Why do they come? Our rankings are pretty good, and the dedication and work of our people at the university reflect that. So at the University of Melbourne, we're ranked #1 in Australia and number 14 in the world. It's a pretty fantastic number that we're very proud of. And a number that at the Faculty of Science we're very proud of is number 8 in graduate employability. This is not only due to the things that we teach in the classroom, but the connections we provide you with and the career opportunities we do as well. And these are just some of our science rankings. You can go through those in your own time. I'm not going to talk about scholarships tonight because there's too many different ones to mention, and I could probably run an entire 2-hour-long session on the different scholarships for different programs. So please, if you're interested in receiving additional funding to gain entry into programs, there are scholarships available for current and future students, and please just look online for your discipline of interest. I'm going to mention entry requirements throughout the session because people will be joining at different times. But a key thing to note is please look online for the application process, the entry requirements of what you need to do. Please don't take down what I say and use that as your be-all and end-all guide. Please look online at the program of interest. The only key thing that I'll point out is that international applications for our master's programs for start year 2024 close on the 31st of October, and domestic applications close on the 30th of November. Otherwise, we'll get into the Master of Biotechnology. I'm going to take a second, have a drink of water, and come talk to you about this program for 15 minutes. For those who have just joined, feel free to get up, grab food, and toilets are down the stairs on the ground floor. And if you have questions, feel free to ask. Any questions in chat? 30 questions. Oh, okay. Alrighty. We'll get started on biotechnology. Now, I've had to do a lot of learning about this program because our academic is away. So excuse me if I might deflect some questions to them later on or next week, but I'm going to try my best to do this fantastic program justice. So biotechnology, hopefully those who are interested in studying this will know kind of what it is, but essentially it is the process of taking something in nature, a biological occurrence, whether it be a process or a system as a whole, and using what's happening or that idea, taking that, designing it or harnessing it in a way that it can be applied for a use or purpose to solve a problem, make something useful out of what's happening in a biological process or system. And in kind of a product sense, it's a full like product pipeline. So how do we discover this thing in a laboratory setting? How do we market it, get it through legal requirements? How do we sell it? How do we design it for specific audiences? And then how are we able to communicate it to them as well? So this is a very broad applied science program, and it relates to anything from agricultural sciences, health sciences, pharmaceuticals, genetics. So it kind of can be tailored to your interests, and these skills are applicable to many areas of study. And you can go on with these skills to many different careers, given the breadth of the skills themselves. They're career transferable, as we like to say. So you could look at going into manufacturing or doing entrepreneurial work, production management, sales or business, or being more lab focused, looking at the product development side of things. It's a full process and cycle. Thing to mention is that at the University of Melbourne, we are ranked #1 in Australia for biological sciences. So this is probably the best place to study in the country to pursue studies in biotechnology. The course is structured like this. There's a set of core discipline subjects that relate to that product pipeline that I just mentioned. So everything from basically lab to life, as they call it. So you're looking at the lab-based skills, and then you're all the way through to how do we sell it, how we package it, etc. These are complemented with elective subjects. So that relates to maybe those specialist area of interest where you would like to take the program. Are you interested to develop a new drug? Are you interested to work with stem cells or something like that? All of this is then topped off with, I think, the most fascinating and fun bit of the program, which is the industry project, which is where you take your skills that you've gained throughout particularly your first year, and then work with an industry partner to develop a solution to a problem or a need that they have over that year. So that's where those elective subjects come in, where you can complement either that industry project that you're doing or the overall kind of idea that you're working towards in your career path in biotechnology. And this is kind of more of the technical details of that. So you have 8 subjects of those core discipline subjects, 6 elective subjects, and then equivalent to 2 subjects in that industry project, so that year-long thing. The core discipline subjects include studies in that product development process. So how do we design a scientific study? What's the process of commercialization? Or it might be science communication. How do we talk about this product to different audiences, to the scientific community, to people who want to buy it, to the average everyday person who doesn't know what happens in the lab and doesn't understand that language. Project management. Developing a product is a huge task. It doesn't take one day, it may take months, in most cases, probably years. So how do you manage your time effectively to achieve your goal? And that goal being producing the thing that you want to. Data analytics. There's massive focus on data science. How do we use data to inform that project management process, inform what we want to produce? Already mentioned commercialization, laws and regulation. How do we ensure that our product meets legal requirements, that we aren't going to possibly harm someone or get ourselves in legal harm or trouble? Leadership, and then biotechnology and context. Got to be skills, you need to know what's happening in the broader world in biotechnology space. So you'll take all of this and use that kind of contextual understanding of what's happening. This may be used to, whether it be for networking or just simply understanding the profession that you're entering. The elective subjects that you can choose from range across scientific, professional development, and business skills. Business is a very big part of this program, including the opportunity to do an additional research project and an internship if you're crazy and want to do lots and lots of different, very intense pieces of work. You also have the opportunity to do those discipline-based electives, so specialist subjects in agricultural sciences or health, pharmaceuticals, etc. And then those economics, business, accounting, law, that kind of side. Now, I've mentioned industry project. What is an industry project? It's kind of like a hybrid child between an internship and a research project. And the essential part of it is that you are solving a problem for an industry partner, a business. They have a problem, you need to design a solution using the skills that you've gained in the program. It's putting that theory into practice. And a big part of that is you demonstrating and building those analytical research and problem solving skills and building confidence in your ability to make contributions to the workforce. That's a big barrier that many students face if they haven't had the opportunity to engage with industry or apply their skills before leaving university. They can feel that kind of gap in their knowledge, or maybe it's a bit of like that imposter syndrome. Programs like this are very important to combating that and ensuring that students feel a little bit more confident in their ability to make contributions to the workplace. The project is supervised by an academic and an industry partner. So you get the perspective of both, maybe more of a research side of things, and then the context of business side of things. And the university provides connections for these programs, so you don't need to go searching for them yourselves. We will actually provide you some titles to choose from for the different projects. Just a little bit more about industry projects. The key thing that I want to mention here is some recent industry projects that we've talked about, or that have happened, apologies. So they can be things like bringing an early stage ovarian cancer diagnostic biomarker to market. That's a lot of words in one go. Or helping to develop new biomaterials for a medical device to soon come to market. These titles are as brief as the ones that we actually provide our students when they select the project. So I'm not being vague for the purposes of being vague. This is how vague we actually provide those projects for students. So instead of them analysing specifically what they want to do, they're given kind of a broader project, maybe to step outside of their comfort zone a little bit instead of following what they already know or already are comfortable with. And I didn't mention this before, but you will be paired with other people in this project as well. So you won't be doing it alone. Most projects in the workplace, you will not do alone. You will work with your peers or your colleagues, whether they're your peers or not. A little bit more about the industry projects. Kind of what that looks like is you'll be basically the industry partners will guide you, the academics will write, or your academic supervisor will provide you guidance as well from a more, so what they want you to gain out of the program, industry will provide you guidance as to what they want or what they're seeking. And this will look like weekly meetings with those academics and those fortnightly meetings with those academics and industry partners, as well as your peers and colleagues that you're working on this project with. And you'll submit assignments along the way to show the progress that you're making in the project. So you're not doing it all at the last minute. This is part of your assessment. And there's some further examples available on the screen. This can be swapped out with a research project as well if you don't want to do an industry project, but there is also the option to do a research project as well as the industry project too. And these are a few pictures of some of our students doing their industry projects. My favorite one is the medicine name box, because it shows very much the other end of getting that product ready for market, designing what people will be looking at or pharmacists will be looking at on the shelves. It's a very visual, it gives you a very visual sense of what biotechnology is. There's not very good pictures of what the lab-based work looks like, but that's kind of where those products end up. And I really like that picture. And these are just a picture of some of our partners. A lot of these are very health-based. We are in the biomedical, the largest biomedical precinct in the Southern Hemisphere. So a lot of our partners are very biomedical based, but there are lots of other partners relating to different areas. We've just showcased mainly our biomedical ones here. Entry requirements. You need an undergraduate degree with a cognate background, and I've got some different cognate backgrounds listed on screen, and a weighted average mark of about 65%. So University of Melbourne students who have joined us tonight will know what that is. If you don't, you can use, there's a little QR code on the bottom of the screen, the graduate coursework grade conversion eligibility calculator. Almost a calendar. You can use that, and you can basically, it's a function or a tool that you type in your previous university study, what the maximum grade is, and then what your grade is, and we will translate that into what score is needed to gain entry. Scan the QR code, it makes a lot more sense than what I've just described it as, and you can see whether your current score is eligible. My only advice is that if you don't know if you're a cognate background or not, is just to submit an application. That's the only way that we can fully assess you. And application process for those online and in person. Apply online. Deadline is the 31st of October for international applicants, and for domestic applicants, it's the 30th of November. Otherwise, if we have no questions about biotechnology, I'll move on to the next session. I think we've got 5 minutes for questions if they're online, or we have biotechnology students in person. Otherwise, we can move on to the next session. Thank you. Feel free to talk amongst yourself. No, holding you ready. Hello. I think I'll call you up. What do you want me to screen? Oh, you have slides, you don't have slides. I'll get you to speak first, and because your slides are sorry. Now introducing all I'll get you to do is stand kind of in that under here, and if you something to yeah. So we tend to know today. Basically, if you stand here, or if you want to speak to more parts, you can stand in front of the yes. So basically, there. So I can see you moving around and then here. Or if you want. Now you know what we're not.
Sure.
I'll speak about your programs. I might start there. Yeah. Well, we got you. I just figured this. Yeah. And there's. Any questions? Are you happy? Any more ones that come up to?
Well, I assumed.
I'm just going to fill up my water bottle. Just going to fill up my water bottle and I'll be back in 1 minute. Okay, we'll get started on the next round of courses. So this is our Food and Agricultural Sciences section. We're going to be talking about the Master of Food Science, the Master of Food and Packaging Innovation, and the Master of Agricultural Sciences. I'm going to give a brief overview of the programs, that I mean very brief, because all the information that I really talk about you can find online. But more importantly, I've actually got both coordinators for these programs here with me tonight. I'd like to thank them a lot for being here and representing their programs, coming out on a Thursday, Thursday night before the holiday. And so I'm going to ask them 2 questions. We're asking all of our academics who are here tonight these same 2 questions about their programs. But without further ado, these are the programs we're talking about. Master of Agricultural Sciences is a they're all 2-year master's programs. Let me start you off there. All 2-year master's programs, and the Master of Food Science and the Master of Agricultural Sciences also have graduate certificate and graduate diplomas available as well. So 6-month and 1-year version of these programs, so shortened. If you're unsure that that's something you want to do, or if that's all that you can commit to, but otherwise the standard programs are all 2 years long. And the Master of Agricultural Sciences has an 150 point or 1.5 year program available as well for those students who have done prior studies in agricultural sciences. So there's different versions. Standard is 2 years. Agricultural sciences obviously focuses on developing expertise in agricultural sciences and agribusiness. There are 5 different specializations available in agribusiness, animal science, crop and soil sciences, and food sustainability. You're not limited to just choosing one. I think you can choose up to 2, and you can mix and match subjects from the different specializations and elective lists that are all available in the University of Melbourne handbook. I'd encourage you to go have a look there, because you can actually read about the content of those different subjects you can choose from, which is a lot more informative than here's the specialization name. Go have a read about what they cover. As mentioned, it's quite flexible. There's also the opportunity to do an internship or a research project, and the research project can be used as a pathway to a PhD, but as I like to think about it, research skills are applicable outside of becoming a researcher and academic as well. They're very useful skills for the workforce. So don't feel like you need to do a research project and then do a PhD. That's not something you're ready to commit to, or you might fall in love with research and choose that as your pathway. Part of this program, you can do some studies up at Dookie, or you might even do some field work up at Dookie, our agricultural campus in North Victoria. Which is a very cool feature of the program. You actually get to apply your skills to an agricultural setting without having to source it elsewhere. Our Master of Food and Packaging Innovation and our Master of Food Science sound very similar, and I'm actually going to explain this program by comparing the two. Master of Food Science, you're looking at essential food subjects, thinking about the components of the food. What is the food made of? How do we make the food? How do we process the food? How do we ship it everywhere and ensure that it's safe to eat, nutritious, or meets the requirements that people want, even if that's not a nutritional requirement, maybe it's more of a taste or a sensory requirement. So it combines study in food chemistry, processing, sensory science, food safety, microbiology, with some career-focused electives. And there's actually a mandatory research project as part of the program. And I like to tell my students who I have online appointments with is that a career in food science, whether you're going onto a PhD or not, those research skills are really important. And you will take those throughout your career. So don't be scared by having to do a research project. And you can prepare for a career in a whole variety of different areas, which I'm not going to talk about. That's what Ken is going to talk about. Food and packaging innovation sits on the other end of food science. How do we sell the food product? What do people want? How do we package it in a way that tells people that it's what they want? Or I guess maybe the packaging needs to meet other requirements like sustainability packaging, like sustainable packaging, or certain colors, or this or that. There's a whole host of areas of study. So it's less focused on the fine details of what the food product is comprised of, and rather how do we speak about it, how do we sell it, how do we package it. So there are smaller studies in food chemistry and more studies on things like business, entrepreneurship, packaging design, marketing, etc. And you have the opportunity to do a research project or an internship with a couple of different high profile companies, which we've got some great little partnerships that we have that we send our students off to, or provide them the opportunity to contact them for an internship or things like this. Good thing about these programs is you don't need to have a cognate background in food science or agricultural sciences. You can enter this program from any discipline. You could be a fine artist, or maybe a musician who's done an undergraduate degree and received a weighted average mark of 65%. You can enter this program and also meet English language requirements. If you're unsure what a weighted average mark of 65% looks like, please use the graduate coursework grade conversion eligibility calculator to figure out what that grade and score looks like at your institution. And the application process is listed above. Please note down the key application closing dates. Otherwise, oh, I didn't update the photo. I'm so sorry, Tony. Tony sent me a lovely photo to update, and I went, that's great, and then never put it in the slide deck. But tonight with me, I have Dr. Ken and Associate Professor Tony Medley. They are the coordinators of each of these respective programs, and they're going to answer a few questions, 2 questions about the program each. So I'll pass over to them to give myself a break. Ken, why should I study this program, and where will this program take me?
Yeah,
You
thanks
may
for
be-
the lecture. That one is a younger version of me. Yeah, why should we study this program? Because food is important. Knowing food, I mean, the industry's values university in training food scientists, and the research project is a very important component of that. The industry doesn't have the capacity to train food scientists, the university can. So the research project in the Master of Food Science is a critical part of the Master of Food Science. And the internship project in the Master of Food Packaging is a critical part of the Master of Food Packaging program. So just put some points here. Master of Food Science prepare students, individuals as a food scientist in industry, or you can go into academia. The research projects is similar to that in terms of the level of research to an honors program. So it can be used as a pathway to PhD, but that is not often the case. We do have students going through that. As I mentioned before, the industry value a well-trained food scientist in the lab. And in the product development, this is the Master of Food Science. You often can get employment with the food industries if that's the career that you're after. Or the Master of Food Packaging is different because the focus here is on the packaging technology and innovation and how to build food products packaging to enhance stability and appeals and sensory, maintain sensory values for the food. And again, it's the food industries that are major employer of the food packaging students. What's the difference between those 2 programs in terms of science requirement for students who want to enter into it? The Master of Food Science, even though the entry requirement does not require students to have a complete degree, but there's a lot of science there. We do open that program out for other students, the lawyer, for example, or those in economics. They might have done some science in the past, and they're very keen to do food science. So we open up that avenue for them. We allow them to come in. And we do have students in that category that do quite well. Because those students tend to be very focused. They know what they want. That's why we didn't close it off. But the Master of Food Science, though, is a more science-based program than the Master of Food Packaging. The Master of Food Packaging is more focused on the business arena. So in terms of the structure of the 2 programs, for the Master of Food Science, there are 8 core subjects, cover all the basic food science topics the students must know at an advanced level, at the master level, like food chemistry, food safety, food microbiology. And a range of discipline electives that students can choose to expand. For example, food science students might want to focus on food and business. So the elective subjects allow them to do that. To have a food science background, but also well-versed in the business arena that help them gain employment in the food industry. Or students want to have knowledge in the area of law, legal studies, food policies that allow them to get employment with government agencies like food regulations and food policy issues. Right? With a strong food science, but with food policies and other legal arenas as electives. So in combinations, you have the core subjects, you have the electives. They are quite flexible for students to select, and the research project, the students will be well trained to take on what comes their way in terms of the challenges in the workforce, either in the industry or in academia. And the food packaging is more different from master food science, but more practical course. And the degree of science for the students who want to get into these are not that high, because a lot of the elective subjects and some of the core subjects in these programs are in the business area. So the understanding business and business management is more important for this degree, for students in this degree. Thank you.
That's okay. Thank you, Ken. I'll pass on to Tony. Tony doesn't have any slides, but that's okay. Do you have notes? I'll just get you to stand a little closer so our online people can see you.
Okay.
But yeah, go for it.
Decided that what I would do would give you 5 reasons why you should do the agricultural science master's program. So I had to make myself notes, because whenever I list them, I always forget one of the things on this. That's why I look at the notes. So the first reason that you would that I would say for doing the master of agricultural science is that it has an incredible amount of depth associated with the core subjects, and it has also a great deal of breadth in the elective subjects. The second reason is upskilling, and many of you who have an agricultural science background will be able to upskill and so learn more in relation to agriculture. But because the program is open to non-cognate students, you can also come in from all sorts of discipline backgrounds, and we have many different students from many different backgrounds do the program. It just requires a 2-year study period, not just a year and a half. The third reason is because the academics that are involved in teaching into this program all have good industry contacts. And those industry contacts allow you to learn about cutting edge areas of agricultural science, and that leads to greater knowledge. The third one, which is you get to mix with students from different academic backgrounds. And so I personally think this is probably the most important one, is that many students that are in my class from a range of different backgrounds. And so it brings a huge problem-solving ability into the classroom. So it becomes a lot more than just agricultural science. We've got all of these other inputs from other students. And the fifth reason is because the course is very practical. There's time out in the field. All subjects take students out of the field, and we do very practically oriented tasks. So that's the first question: why should you study this program? The second one is, where will this program take you? And I decided to use an example of one of my students that did the Masters of Agricultural Science about 5 years ago. He came along, he hadn't done any agriculture before, but he did my subject in the first year of the program, which was soil science and management. And after doing that subject, he said he was interested in doing a 50-point research project. And so we talked about what he might do, and he said he was interested in a spectral imaging. Now, I don't come from a spectral imaging background, but with my knowledge of supervising postgraduate or postgraduate students and some of the other people available in the faculty, we put together a project for him looking at NDVI images as a way to assess wheat yield in the field. And that wasn't enough for him. When he finished that, his master's program, he decided that he wanted to go further and do a PhD. And so I couldn't supervise him in a PhD, but it was just fortuitous that we just managed to get on board one of the most highly cited environmental scientists in Australia, Professor Pablo sorry, Spanish. And so he took on my student, and my student has just completed his PhD, and the PhD program was looking at hyperspectral imaging to assess the nitrogen status of wheat plants. And so, in fact, he just gave his completion seminar today to the faculty. So that's one example of where this degree can take you. So thanks.
Thank you, Tony. It's so lovely to hear about the outcomes of students. I sit on the other side and I get to talk about where it can take you, but I feel like our academics have a different perspective when they get to see that student journey, or they'll get to know students in the classroom and watch them progress throughout their careers. So although I know about the program structure, it's so nice to hear from the other side of the story, what our current students are doing. But for now, that closes the end of the food and agriculture section. If we have questions, we're happy to take them from the crowd. We're going to start our next session at 6:55. So if there's questions online that we'll want to pass to me, if there's one that's broad, or if anyone from the crowd has a question for Tony and Ken, or about the programs, feel free to ask them. Tony and Ken, I think, are going to hang around for a little bit after this. So if you want a one-on-one chat, please go have that chat for those people in person. Otherwise, we'll start our earth and environment graduate science information night section at 6:55. Any questions? No, but they can so your master plan epidemiology, so you're actually speaking second, but I'll call you I've got his microphone. All that you need to know is I will look into it to make it long. More than that, I'm going to speak to this session. I think you've got about half an hour. I'm going to speak for maybe 3 or 5 minutes, and then it's all I need you to do is, if anyone using the benefit is how quietly or loud and spoken you are. If you find it spoken, stand a little bit closer. And if you're confident in projecting, you can stand a little closer back. Yeah. And no, we don't have to think. I'll the only thing to note is you've got no slides, you don't need But depending on the graduate how softly or not. It's not on the the camera is pointed in this way. Come have a look at where
Oh,
it's.
yes.
Yeah, so here,
Right. Oh, it's quite broad.
Yeah.
Right here.
but depending on how closely you stand, it'll project it.
How many people we got online?
So it's. Well, how many people do you have? 40 people. Yeah, one. I started that too, but now, yeah. She's okay now, but it's like doing it. Look at what makes sense. That's right. Yeah. It's the word balancing. Yeah, if you want to sit up in front of the video. So basically, yeah. You know, Tony's thinking, it's the same. All I need you to do, and if you don't want to predict the voice too much, what you are willing to do is stand either behind the lectern or closer. Yeah. If you just want to take more because the mic isn't like that. If you're comfortable with it, you can stand it. I'll show you where the camera's pointed so you know.
And there are people online.
Yeah, so this is
That
what the people online can see, and they can also see the screen predicted shot, like, you know, slide share for Zoom.
So I can see and hear me if I'm standing here.
Yes, they can see it here if you're standing. Did you? I think that because it's doing similar stuff. But specifically for the Bachelor of Agriculture. It's just kind of progress on the way. Gave me a hand. Yeah, true. Just couldn't take it. Yeah, so enjoying it. We'll find out. Yeah. I'll speak for a bit. Keep track of time. Oh. Might just note for you that we're starting now. I can go do it if you wanna. Are you okay? Oh, yeah, go grab, and then we'll start. Alrighty, we'll get started on the next session. Everyone's just gone for a bit of, for those in person have gone for food break, water break, but online we're getting started. You've had enough of a break too. We're going to cover our Earth and Environmental Sciences programs. Now, I will mention that we do have a program that I haven't featured in here called the Master of Science Earth Sciences. It's basically like a hybrid research coursework program that does fit into this category, but we're going to actually talk about the Master of Science programs overall more in depth during the final session, and you'll actually get to hear some academics about what they do in their particular areas of study for Master of Science, not Earth Sciences in particular, but a very good demonstration of how these programs are run. So that's why I've put that in the final section rather than going through that now. Otherwise, let's look at Earth and Environmental programs. So this covers 7 programs. Our Master of Environment, a Master of Environmental Science, a Master of Climate Science, a Master of Ecosystem Management and Conservation, a Master of Urban Horticulture, a Master of Geoscience, and our Master of Geography. So this is just a summary slide of these programs. They range from very broad to very niche and specialist. So for example, I don't know if I start with the Master of Environment. This is our more broad environmental studies degree. And I note that I don't say science because it can have many different focuses. I think the key word to describe this is holistic and multidisciplinary. And when I was speaking with the coordinator about this program, she described her graduates as T-shaped graduates. So they have a broad contextual understanding of sustainability and environmental problems, and then a specialist area of study within that context. So there are 12 specialist streams ranging across a whole host of areas, which can include environmental science studies, but the Master of Environment takes a different approach where we try to solve environmental problems using different disciplines and areas of study rather than just science. Because if we think about it, I like to kind of use this kind of way of explaining it. Humans aren't logical. As much as we like to think we're logical, we're not. And a lot of the problems that we're facing with sustainability and environmental things, we have a lot of scientific solutions for already. So why are they not being implemented in businesses, in organizations, by people in their everyday life? So this program tries to tackle environmental problems from a different angle, whether it be architecture or law and legal and social studies and policy, or you might have a niche area of interest in agriculture or soil science or climate credits or carbon sequestration. This program has 200 different subjects to choose from across 7 different faculties. It's very broad and it is what you make it. And many of our students go on to pursue many different degrees, careers based on their areas of interest. I'm not going to go through them because there's too many to mention, but what I will point is that there is a QR code on the screen for a Master of Environment course guide. This is a course guide developed by the Office for Environmental Programs at the University of Melbourne that is for current students, but I actually give it to a lot of our future students as well. And it gives you some key questions to think about when you're planning or deciding to take on this program. Thinking about what you actually want to achieve, what kind of area of study you want to utilize to solve environmental challenges, because it's very broad and can sometimes be a bit overwhelming for students when they first encounter it. And then after the Master of Environment, we kind of tend to become less broad and a little bit more specialist. So our Master of Environmental Science, in comparison to Master of Environment, focuses more on the scientific skills required or scientific and technical skills required to solve environmental challenges or sustainability challenges. Key part of this program is a year-long industry project where you're partnered with an organisation, a business that is trying to solve an environmental problem, and as part of your second year of study, you will attempt to solve that with them. So you'll meet with an industry partner as well as an academic throughout this project and apply what you've learned in the classroom to solving this problem. Graduates from these programs go to work as environmental scientists, but can also go on to do things like environmental engineering, environmental policy and regulation, soil specialists, ecologists. The environment is everywhere. So realistically, there's lots of jobs relating to environmental sciences. And some of our places where our students have gone on to work, including like non-government organisations, environmental protection agencies, the CSIRO, Bureau of Meteorology, just to name a few. Master of Climate Science, a step in the more specialist direction, is looking at climate science. Like climate change is one of the biggest challenges of the 21st century, if not the biggest challenge that's facing the entire world. So this program aims at teaching you the skills and the contextual knowledge about climate science so that you can take that into organisations, businesses, wherever you want to go to help understand, potentially mitigate or adapt to climate change or climate challenges that are brought about because of climate change. That's the program in a nutshell. There's an opportunity to do a capstone internship and or a research project or both if you would like in the program. And I will stress that it is one of the only climate science programs in the country that have both a scientific and a kind of like context policy focus. There's a lot of programs at other universities that have more of a policy focus or just a contextual understanding of what's going on with the climate. This gives you the tools to actually be the person understanding what is going on with the environment, those kind of technical skills. Master of Ecosystem Management and Conservation gives you the skills to look at ecosystems. What are the social and biophysical aspects of these ecosystems on a larger landscape and local level, and how do we manage these either for sustainability purposes, for resource purposes, etc. This program is really cool because it was designed in consultation with industry, especially at a Victorian kind of level, especially with things like Vic Forests and the Department of Environment, Land, Water and Planning, to ensure that graduates from this program had the skills that they needed to work in these industries. So it's not just, I guess, the program designers at the university going, I think this is what we need. We've actually asked and gone out to industry and our industry partners and gone, hey, what do you want to see from our graduates? Let's put it into this program. Really cool feature. And that was, yeah, I think that's really, really cool that we've done that. You can prepare for a career amongst a whole host of things related to ecosystem management. I'm not going to go into it because I've got one of our academics here for this program, and she will talk a little bit about that. Master of Urban Horticulture, even more specialist. So this is looking at plants and natural environments in urban settings. So thinking cities, or in suburbs, how we use things like green spaces, or just generally gardens in these spaces for a whole variety of purposes, whether it be visual, architectural, to provide sustainability purposes for different buildings, or is it for health and social values and how we construct, manage, and maintain these spaces, as well as constructing them for a whole different bunch of purposes. How do we know what we want to construct for, and how do we implement those kind of features into the design as well? Cool feature about this program is taught at one of our specialist campus. So this is our Burnley horticultural campus in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne. And a lot of these classes are taught intensively. Very similar to the Master of Ecosystem Management and Conservation. This program was designed and is heavily, I guess, heavily designed by industry as well. There's a lot of partnerships with local horticultural groups that help inform the design of this program, as well as the ongoing teaching. So you'll often have industry partners coming into the classroom to teach a lot of these subjects and provide up-to-date knowledge as to what's going on at a local kind of Victorian scale and an Australian context as well. Master of Geography is kind of the expert level study of physical aspects of the landscape and atmosphere, as well as human activity, and how they influence one another, affect one another, how they interact. This program is designed for students with a background in geography. So we're expecting you to have done a little bit of geography at an undergraduate level, and you can use this program to build on that area of study, whether you've done a subject in undergrad and maybe I want to do a little bit more, or maybe you've done a whole host of geography studies and you want to focus in on a specific area. This program offers the opportunity. There are 3 specialized streams in this program. So physical, human, and integrated geography. I imagine the people who study geography in the room will know a lot more about what these mean than I do. And you can read about what they cover online as well. The program's incredibly flexible. You can do no research project, a minor research project, or a major research project. So depending on what you want, you can kind of design it. And there's the opportunity to do an immense amount of field work. So up to, I think, 200 hours, depending on the different subjects you enroll in, as well as the opportunity to do an international internship environment, depending on availability of each year. Obviously with COVID, that was a little bit difficult, but we're looking to get that ball rolling again with this program. Master of Geoscience is our expert level kind of geology focused program. So it's looking at environmental geoscience, mineral resource management, and exploration. So it covers a whole host of skills that are relevant to that kind of area of study, including economic geology, energy, earth structure, geophysics, and environmental geoscience, as well as some professional skills to translate what you learn from your theory and your practice. So things like project management, data analytics, business, leadership, communications, etc. As with most of our programs, you have the opportunity to complete a research project or an internship, or both, if you want to do both. And you'll be preparing for a career in kind of the geological sciences space. And many of our students have gone on to work for large geological science-based companies like Geoscience Australia, BHP, Rio Tinto, Shell, and the CSIRO, which have many interests apart from geoscience, but geoscience is one of them. Entry requirements. As with most of our programs at the Faculty of Science, you require an undergraduate degree with a weighted average mark of at least 65%, and you'll need to have that undergraduate degree in a relevant or cognate discipline to the program that you're going to study. So it doesn't have to be directly, let's say you're going to do environmental science, you don't have to have directly done environmental science, but you might do something like agricultural science or something else. There's a list of different example cognate backgrounds that you can have a look at online. And if you're unsure if your cognate background is actually cognate, we advise you to submit an application for a full assessment. Sometimes there's programs that are borderline meet the requirements. One thing to mention is the Master of Climate Science does have a requirement to have done some mathematics subjects. I believe it's Calculus 1 and Calculus 2 for some electives, and you'll be required to provide evidence that you've met that requirement. So it might be a subject syllabus. And if you don't know what your weighted average mark is or what that is equivalent at the University of Melbourne, I've mentioned that 65, you can use the graduate coursework grade conversion eligibility calculator. I've read that 3 times tonight, I've memorized it. Application process, please check online, don't take my word for it. Please follow those processes per the program of interest. Key things to mention is the international applications close on the 31st of October and domestic applications close on the 30th of November for the start year intake 2024, commencing February 2024. Otherwise, I'm going to pass on to Dr. Bonnie Wintle and Dr. Mark Newbound. Dr. Bonnie Wintle is the newly appointed coordinator of the Master of Ecosystem Management and Conservation. And Dr. Mark Newbound is one of the head teachers for the Master of Environment. And I actually had the pleasure of being taught by Mark in my first semester of the program as well. So I can say firsthand, he does a very good job and he's very dedicated. But they're going to answer 2 questions about this program, other than just me talking about information that you can essentially find online. And that is, why should I study this program? And where will this program take me? I'm going to pass on to Bonnie firsthand. He's got some slides that he wants to talk about. And then we'll go on to Mark.
Hi everyone, I'm Bonnie. I, as mentioned, recently took over this role as coordinator of this master's program. But I have been teaching into a subject coordinator for 2 subjects that are both electives in this program, and one of them is a core subject in Master's of Environmental Science. So that's environmental risk assessment and nature, conservation and society. So they're 2 very different subjects. One, environmental risk assessment, is a very technical, practical subject that will sort of teach you the tools that you need to assess threats and risks to the environment. And the other subject, nature, conservation and society, is very much, it's more of a social science subject, and very much acknowledges that humans are part of the environment and part of nature, and in terms of the impacts that we have, and we make decisions about the environment, about conservation. So yeah, really big part of it, and I think that that's illustrates kind of the broader program, the Masters of, I'll skip through, here we go. The Masters of Ecosystem Management and Conservation really does bring together these elements, this sort of more social side of conservation and ecosystem management. And it also teaches you the practical skills and technical tools that you will need to do assessments, biophysical and social assessments, and also to manage the environment. So tools such as GIS, geographic information systems, and other spatial tools. So you can study subjects that teach you that. Stakeholder analysis. Stakeholders are very much part of any land management. So land managers estimate that they spend 30% of their time working with stakeholders. So stakeholders being local community or anybody with a stake in a decision affecting their environment. Structured decision making is another great tool that is taught in a couple of subjects to sort of help you make structured and repeatable, robust decisions about the environment. Another great thing about this program is the internships. You've already heard a bit about this, but so you can choose from 3 different internships here. There's an ecosystem internship, international internship in environment, and science and technology internship. So this is a really great opportunity to build professional networks, learn skills and experience that you're going to need in the real world on the job. Students love it. They think it's kind of the best part of their learning experience, the most valuable part of their learning experience. So, and it also gives you an opportunity to, if you do this international internship and environment, you can go overseas. So that has a built-in component to get you involved in different systems, different cultures, and yeah. So, for example, one of the students went to Myanmar and worked at an international water, remember the name of the organisation, but water management, and she was working with villages to develop strategies for managing their water. So yeah, some good opportunities with internships, and that sort of feeds into the next point about overseas opportunities. So there are a bunch of things listed here. I won't go into them, but this last one here, forests in the Asia Pacific region, include a 2-week intensive international field tour. This is a subject, forests in the Asia Pacific region. It wasn't running in 2023, but we hope to have it up and running again for 2024. So yeah, great opportunities to go overseas. Fieldwork is another great reason to take this master's program. This is a student here, Aaron, who a graduate of ecosystem management and conservation, who says, I've really enjoyed the field trip components, which have been a big part of our course. Field trips are an amazing learning experience in themselves. However, I found the conversations while walking or driving in vans with academics and my peers to be a highlight. Being amongst like-minded people, sharing knowledge about the environment was an extra element of learning and a great way to establish ongoing professional relationships. So yeah, field trips are great. Having done them myself in my various degrees, I think they're really valuable. Where will this program take me? As Saxon said, this program was developed recently redeveloped actually in 2019 with input from industry. So a lot of this gives a lot of great connections to industry. So a lot of the graduates end up working in state governments. It's recently changed its name to DECA, which is now
apologies.
used to be DELP. Now it's DECA, which is Victorian Government Department of Energy, Environment and Climate Action. There you go. Just learned that one yesterday. So yeah, lots of jobs in DECA and the sort of associated state government agencies. So you could end up working in fire management or catchment management or catchment management authority, Parks Victoria. You might be interested in managing national parks. If graduates go on and do that, you might end up working at an NGO. A lot of people go to various NGOs. We've got Waterwatch here. We've got so Waterwatch does a lot of citizen science programs around monitoring water quality and so on. So you could be involved in running those programs for Waterwatch, or you could work for WWF, the Worldwide Wildlife Fund, that stands for. This person here is cuddling a cute koala that's been impacted by bushfires, so we're working on bushfire recovery efforts. There are jobs at Bush Heritage, another great organisation that manages a large network of reserves that have been previously private land that's been donated or purchased by Bush Heritage. So yeah, there are jobs there, and I looked up the jobs that were available yesterday, and they had 2 jobs there. One was an ecologist can't remember the other, but yeah, so lots of different places to work. This is obviously just a snapshot. You might end up wanting to do more research, and this master's program is also great. You can take a program or a course that will sort of gear you or steer you towards doing more research. So you might use it as a stepping stone to do a PhD. You might end up working for a research organisation like CSIRO. You can see they've got a dedicated ecosystem management program. Arthur Ryler Institute, ARI, been around for 50 years or so now. That's another really great organisation that employ a lot of people who come out of this program. It usually requires quantitative skills. Mosaic Insights, that's a private consulting group. So, and they're sort of mostly concerned about, you can see here, creating social landscapes of the future. So you can, if you want to work in research in private consulting, you can do that as well. So, and these so they employ social scientists to help research and design spaces and policy to balance the needs of people and the environment, often in urban spaces. I've just got another couple of little pictures there just to show, you know, also you can go on to, if you're interested in science and technology, and sort of coming up with new creative solutions to environmental problems, such as this robot that injects a toxin into this invasive crown of thorns starfish, which is, you know, wreaking havoc in the Great Barrier Reef. It's a technical solution to a big pest. So yeah, things like that. There are lots of opportunities out there, depending on which path you choose to follow. I think that's all. Hand it over to you. Happy to answer any questions later.
Well, pass on to Mark to talk a little bit about the Master of Environment.
Okay.
There you go.
Oh, you've got no questions? Well, there's your questions and no slides. Go for it.
Yeah, I'm still anecdotally. I teach first year subjects on taxon was in the first semester subject, and I also look after the research projects that come at the end of the degree. And so I see students at the start and I see what they do at the end. And I think sort of running through what I see is probably a good way of explaining what you get out of the degree and the kind of things you can do. So it was a good first tutorial we have in environmental sustainability as the subject. That's the first year subject, where everybody kind of like talks about what their background is, and we kind of like do a little exercise based on where you've come from. And the thing is, people coming from everywhere, and that's I think the kind of feature of the degree is that because it was set up as this interdisciplinary kind of approach to solving environmental problems, you get people who are coming from finance or commerce and hard science, physical science, geography or social sciences, arts, people coming from arts, people coming from performing arts, all over the place. And there's one kind of underlying kind of feature when you sort of start talking to people about this, is that they've all kind of done something, and then maybe they've worked a few years, but they're exposed to a lot of ideas about the environment. They're seeing stuff about the environment, and they're concerned, and they say, I want to do something about that for a job. And that's kind of what's motivating people to join the course. So you've got this great kind of range of people who are all really kind of motivated in this way. And it creates a good learning environment because of the way you can bounce off other people. You'll be in a class with people, you've come from an arts background, but you're in a classroom with someone's got a physical science background, and you're learning from each other. And that's kind of how environmental problems really need to get solved in a way, because they're complex problems. Anyway, everyone's motivated, they're good to go, and then they hand in the first assignment. And I marked the first assignment, and the first assignments are terrible. and
Oh no, I remember my marks.
But that's kind of good that it's bad in a way, because if it was great to start with, then what would be the point of doing the degree? You're already great at it. And the reasons that it's bad is because people don't have a good foundational understanding of environmental issues, like what's driving these problems and what are the underlying physical things. The written expression skills aren't very good, and their critical analysis skills aren't very good. And this is a really kind of important thing that you get out of the degree, is that because environmental problems are complex and involve a lot of kind of understandings of like social things and data, and there's so much information out on all of these different things, the ability to be able to kind of like access that information, sift through that information, compare that information, understand that information, and draw conclusions from it. It's not an easy skill to do. And to do it in a really sophisticated way, that's like the top of, you know, like as good as it'll get, that kind of thing, you know. And people can't do it at first. But then what I see at the other end is when I'm looking after the research project component of the degree. So once you've sort of done, you know, a year and a half, usually you're doing the last semester, you can choose to do a research project on any topic that you like. And so people, you know, because it's this, it's a choose your own adventure kind of degree, you can sort of go and do a really hard physical science thing, or a social science thing, or anywhere in between, engineering, whatever. So I kind of look after lining up students with supervisors and just making sure it's all running smoothly. And so I also read all the things that they submit, their final research project thesis. And then I see it beautiful. You know, all the things I didn't see in first year, I see at the end, because someone's been able to kind of like, they get it in the subject that I'm teaching, but then they're getting into all of the subjects that are being taught in the degree. How can you do this critical analysis? You know, how can you write well and communicate well? You know, you see it come out in the final thesis as they write, that it's you know, it's as good as it gets. Sometimes it is publishable, and there have been people who publish their master's research projects in their academic journals. And yeah, so I think that's the kind of thing that you get out of the degree. You get that high level of thinking skills, and analytical skills, but you also get the opportunity, because the degree is so flexible and so broad, to be able to kind of like feel your way around a little bit to start with. I mean, you can choose specialization streams to say, okay, I really want to do it within you know, health or something like that, and just sort of go down this environment and health stream. We can have a tailored specialization where you're just actually choosing all over the place, and then but you focus in. And so when you get to the end, if you choose to do a research project, you're going bang on that thing that you're really, really interested in. You've worked that out, and then that can take you to where you go afterwards in terms of the job. So, like for example, there's someone who's just graduated, and she did her master's research project in community agriculture. Urban agriculture, and beautiful, like really nice thesis, really well thought out, and now that's where she's working. And the thing is, now that she's working in a place like that, it's like, well, she's not just working there doing the community agriculture stuff like that. She's got this great level of skill that she's bringing to it, and I think that the employers would really value that. And there's another person. There's another good anecdotal one, is that because you can do you can line up your research project with industry partners, and so that way you can kind of like get a foot in the door to get a job with them afterwards. And so she did work going to the Northern Territory, looking at in remote Indigenous communities cat ownership and what the cats were doing environmentally, because the Indigenous people like the cats, but then the cats they're not getting spayed and they're roaming all over the place, and so that was really good kind of research that you kind of do with this in degree, which I don't think you probably do in a lot of other degrees, because it combined physical science aspects, and she put tracking collars on the cats to see where they were going, and also social science component, because she was interviewing the cat owners to find out what their attitudes were towards their pets and what they were doing. Anyway, good project, really nicely written up, and that's where she is now. She's graduated, and she's working not with the company that she did the research project with, but she's working with Indigenous land management in the Northern Territory. So yeah, that's where it can go. And going.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Okay. Right on time. Fantastic. Excellent. Well, thank you to Bonnie and Martha. That concludes the end of our Earth and Environment session. We'll give everyone maybe a minute and then we're going to hop into the Master of Science suite. Yeah, take a breather. I'm going to have a drink of water. If you want to go get some food, we'll hop back in pretty quickly though. Like get up, stretch your legs and get on back here. Yeah, sorry, I'll just clarify for those, if there are people in the room who would like to talk to Mark or Bonnie, they'll be around in the foyer for up until as long as they'd like to. Or as long as you hold them active in the foyer. So you can ask them questions. If you've got questions about courses, you can ask someone like myself who's also in the foyer. But yeah, otherwise we'll start the Master of Science week very shortly. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I'm gonna do progress of science.
But I excited when that Mark was not deep.
I know. I just didn't have a profile photo. Yeah, this is just a holding one. Yes.
Okay, cool.
Hello. I only know you by your profile picture on the project, but that's why. But yeah, we'll start it very shortly. We're going to do the same thing.
What slides did you put on?
So I'm going in alphabetical order of the courses.
Okay.
So we're going bioinformatics, epidemiology, and maths and stats.
Okay.
And there's a little slide between
Okay.
the pause. I'm going to whiz through it and go because essentially you've got a very similar course structure between them all. And then I'll ask over you.
Yeah. And did you put what slide?
All the slide room.
What?
Three different.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're all-
So,
I looked at all.
it's very- I did the session on Tuesday, which is that was the slide we end up, as in this session of just maths and stats.
Okay.
Yeah, just do those.
Yeah, we're 3 to 7. I've got those slides with you.
Still very few people online.
Okay, we'll start like now, pretty much. Basically, what I get you to come up and speak, if you've got slides which you think all of you do, I'll ask you to click them. Stand up here. Otherwise, I'm going to get started.
There's been a mass exodus from the people in the room, but I'm going to trust that there's people online. I think we've got 33 with us joining. So I'm going to get started to talk about the Master of Science suite. I'm going to talk very briefly about the programs, and then I'm actually going to hand over to 3 of our coordinators from the different, essentially, study areas of the Master of Science. So we've got Associate Professor Daniel Park from the Master of Science Bioinformatics. We've got Dr. Andrew Lau from the Master of Science Epidemiology, and then Associate Professor James Osborne from the Master of Science Mathematics and Statistics. So the Master of Science is essentially it's a hybrid course between a coursework program, so thinking standard subjects, and then a large substantial research project. So it's not a small 1 semester 25-point research project, it's quite large. It varies with each discipline that you study, but essentially it can be used as a pathway straight. You could go into a PhD, and it's seen as quite a fantastic way to prepare for a PhD, given the substantial amount of research that you would complete in the program, as well as the Masters allows that 2 years to take some specialist level study in that area of interest in comparison to something like an honours, which is 1 year and you have very limited amounts of elective options. So this is a higher level version of an honours with a lot more coursework, essentially, and a lot of the times a larger research project. I will stress that if you don't want to do a PhD, this is also a fantastic project to jump straight in the workforce, as I've mentioned to in other sections tonight. Research skills are applicable outside of research. That critical thinking, ability to make decisions and contributions and to analyze problems and present those solutions is essential for many workplaces, if not all, in some capacity. So just because it's a research project does not mean you need to have a career in research, but it can be a fantastic, more extended way of gaining those skills. And in often many cases, a lot more fruitful in that space in comparison to something to an honours. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, I believe 7, sorry, I've lost count. We have 7 different specialised areas of study within the Master of Science suite. And they are bioinformatics, biosciences, chemistry, earth sciences, epidemiology, physics, mathematics, and statistics. They are all similar in overall structure, being coursework, combination of core and elective subjects, maybe a professional skills subject, and then a research project. But it varies in how much of each of these you do. Typically, all research projects will be above 50 points, some range up to 125 points, and the amount of coursework and elective subjects will vary with the area of study. So I've got the Master of Science Bioinformatics as an example to show you that in practice. So we have a combination of coursework subjects, some elective subjects, a professional skills subject, and then a research project that you start in your second semester of your first year. Sometimes you might start this in your first semester with some of the different disciplines. Sometimes you might start this in the second. Sometimes you might only start it in your second year. The key feature of all of them is that once you start the research project, you don't stop the research project. Once you commence it, you continue throughout your semesters. And typically in your final semester of your final year, you'll dedicate a larger amount of time to that research project. It varies with the individual student, but this is the standard structure of the program. And this is an example of some of the subjects that you can do. So there's different research projects available in different areas of study, and you can have a look online at the different research groups under each school. And that'll generally pertain to what research projects are available or where you might be able to find a project of interest for you. And then there's elective subjects that you can choose, which are mainly discipline based. So it will be within your discipline of study. You're not going to be taking an art subject as one of your electives. They'll generally be within a prescribed list. And then the discipline subjects will be related to key skills required, either A, to complete the research project, or B, for that general area of study. Some are more heavy, some are less heavy on those kind of discipline subjects. How big is each research project? As I mentioned, they vary, and I've got a little table up there to show you. So chemistry and earth sciences and biosciences is quite large, but then bioinformatics can be quite small. And sometimes it can vary in how large the research project is as well. If you want to do a little bit more, they typically don't go below the minimum of 50 points ever. And do we need to contact a supervisor? Part of the process of applying for this program is for some of these different areas, you will need to contact a supervisor as part of the application process. And I've got a table there of which streams and disciplines that is required for. So there's no supervisor required for bioinformatics, epidemiology, and maths and stats. Once you enroll in the program, you'll be helped through the process of identifying a potential supervisor or a supervisor that will work with you. With all the others, you'll need to contact them before you apply to establish those potential relationships once you get your own. And this is where you can find a supervisor. You can find all this information online. I've just kind of summarized it. We've got a fantastic web resource called Find an Expert, which details every academic that's ever touched the university with their finger and done a bit of research. Their profiles will be listed there. And there's a button on there that says experts for research supervision. So these are potential academic supervisors that are actively looking to supervise students. So we encourage you to have a look there, as well as look at the research areas on the Faculty of Science website and the research areas across the 7 different schools. The entry requirements for this program are a little bit different than our standard at the Faculty of Science. We you need an undergraduate degree with a relevant background. We're not going to ask you to do mathematics and statistics for the first time in your life at a master's level. You're going to need to have done that in your undergraduate degree. You can't come into this program without relevant studies beforehand. You can look at examples of that online. And you'll need a weighted average mark of 65% in something what we call your best 50. I'll explain what the best 50 is in a second, but just to mention, there are some specific subject prerequisites in addition to a cognate background for some of the streams. I've listed them there that you can refer back to. Otherwise, have a look online. We've also linked them on the website. Best 50. I get questions about this all the time. It's something I answer on a regular basis during my student appointments. The best 50 is, instead of an overall score that we take for all of your prior studies, we focus on your best results from your third or equivalent final year of study in subjects relevant to the master's program that you're applying for. So for instance, let's say you're applying for Master of Science, Mathematics and Statistics. We're going to look at your best results from equivalent to about 4 subjects at the University of Melbourne. So that's 50 points is equivalent to 4 subjects. We're going to look at those 4 and we're going to take an average from there. Instead of looking at your first year, your second year, and your third year, the average comes from your final year from your best subjects in the area of study relevant to the program you're applying to. And if that's above 65%, that's great. You'll most likely receive an offer for the program if everything else is met and those requirements are met. If you're worried about your marks being borderline or not meeting that requirement, the best advice that we can give you is to submit an application for a full assessment. Unfortunately, our grade conversion eligibility calculator that we've recently published at the university is not applicable to this program, given this specialist requirement. So the best advice we can do is apply. The worst thing that can happen is you get a rejection letter. That's it. And this is how to apply. Please go online, don't take my word or this slide as your only source of advice for the application process. Key thing to mention is international applications close on the 31st of October, and for the domestic applications, they close on the 30th of November for the start year intake 2024. If you're interested in one of those programs that has a supervisor requirement as part of the application process, start contacting them as soon as possible. Our academics are busy people, they're teaching classes, they might be on leave. Best piece of advice is don't contact the supervisor on the day that the deadline closes. You need to be preparing for this application in advance for those students who need to do that. Otherwise, that's the Master of Science Suite in a nutshell. I'm going to pass on to my lovely academics who have joined me this evening to talk about the programs that they teach and ask them 2 questions. Why should I study this program and where will this program take me? So I'm going to pass on to Associate Professor Daniel Park to talk about bioinformatics. Thanks. You've roughly got about 6 to 7 minutes each.
So thank you for that. So I'm going to be very brief. So why should you choose bioinformatics? Well, the life sciences that cover all manner of things, including biomedical research areas and agriculture and what have you. Lots of these are becoming data sciences. More and more we're generating big data sets from new instrumentation. And people need to know how to work with those data sets and analyze them. And that's really what bioinformatics is about. The last 10 years or so, especially, has transformed biomedical research beyond recognition. So that is a massive point. Being a bioinformatician can be very rewarding. It's quite flexible. Lots of areas of biology that you have the opportunity to dive into. Once you build up a toolkit, you can take that with you to a range of different areas. So that's, I guess it can be very rewarding. Lots of opportunities to work in areas that interest you, you're passionate about. There's lots of opportunity to lead a very interesting career. on the course, you'll build general data science skills as well as domain specific skills, and that allows a lot of flexibility to move off into different areas. Okay, what's interesting other than what we've already talked about this degree? Well, the research projects, particularly bioinformatics research projects, they're embedded within real world, real life research groups, asking contemporary research questions. They're not an artificial constructs, and so you get that deep embedded experience. And that's a real selling point when it comes to looking for jobs afterwards. That's kind of a really important part of the course that prospective employers go looking for. And I know I've supervised students directly myself and seen how the research project is helping them get jobs afterwards in research institutes and so on. And also we mentioned the elective subjects in this particular course. Whilst they are broadly domain specific, there's quite a big range of different elective subjects that are available. So that gives a lot of opportunity to tailor your course to take it in the direction that you want to take it in. This will be pretty important to people, I guess. What can you do next? And these are all these aren't kind of made up out of nowhere. These are kind of examples of things that lots of students have gone on to do. We have lots of people that go on to do PhDs and then go on to become postdocs, and other people who move straight into becoming a bioinformatician working in a lab, or it could be in research, diagnostic scientists. A lot of research hospitals are employing our graduates. We also have people going into bioinformatics infrastructure, building systems that bioinformaticians then go on to use. Examples of students going to work in pharma as bioinformaticians as well. And then we have other people that go off and do different things. People are going to general data science, working for companies. Also examples of people moving out, branching out into software engineering, sometimes with newfound skills that they've developed through the course. So that's it. I said I'd be brief. So there you go.
I'll get to thank you.
Thank you. So, hello everyone, both online and in person. My name is Andrew and I'm an epidemiologist. So, first of all, I'm going to ask a stupid question, okay? Who's heard of COVID-19? Everyone? Okay,
Yep.
Keep your hand up. Who's heard of epidemiology? Oh, excellent. Who's confident that they know what epidemiology is? Oh, okay, not bad, not bad. Okay, so perhaps the easiest way to answer this kind of question is, first of all, what do epidemiologists do? This is what we do. We ask questions and design investigations to answer important human public health issues. For example, what is the burden of endemic malaria on pregnant women in Bangladesh? What are the drivers of antimicrobial resistance or resistant gonorrhea in men? Or perhaps even, do therapy animals protect against cognitive decline amongst aged care residents? So if I was going to summarize epidemiology, I would describe it as kind of the study of the distributions of disease, the drivers of disease, and the management of disease, whether it be treatment, prevention, or cure, right? So in that case, why should you choose epidemiology? Well, for one, we need epidemiologists. I think the last few years have really shown that. But why should you do epidemiology? Well, this isn't exclusive to epidemiologists, but are you naturally curious, analytical, even critical sometimes? Is that true? Is that true? Is that true? Yeah. Do you want to challenge your own preconceptions and biases? Again, these aren't exclusive to epidemiology, but this last one is, do you value evidence-based health knowledge and practice? If yes, Epi is for you, okay? And if you come to the Master of Science Epidemiology course, then we will help you study, and we will provide you foundations to design epidemiological studies, apply scientific literature, and appropriately analyze and interpret population data. Okay, and with those skills, you can then become a medical detective and tackle issues in population health. That sounds fantastic. Okay, but how do we train you to become a medical detective? Well, this is how. We give you foundational training in epidemiology, biostatistics, and public health subjects. As Saxon mentioned before, you'll be doing a research project as well. And with this research project, we'll connect you with contemporary and expert researchers and industry partners. Up here is just a fraction of some of the partners that you can be working with and doing your research with. Okay, and this kind of research is real, it's impactful, it is publishable. What kind of research could you be doing? Like this. These are real student projects as of this year. Okay, things like this. You could be studying things in infectious diseases, such as malaria or COVID-19, if you wish, bird flu, swine flu, sexually transmitted infections. You could be studying things like chronic diseases or non-communicable diseases, such as your cancers, your agings, your heart disease, obesity. You could even be studying things like injury, so falls amongst aged populations, traffic accidents, things like that. Students always ask, how do I get into the industry without experience, right? This is how. We're doing research projects with industry partners. This counts as your experience. And if your project is good enough and publishable, this goes into your CV. This is how you get experience. Okay, and that then it's on the fast track towards employment. Okay, employment, fantastic, sounds fantastic. So what kind of jobs can I expect as an epidemiologist? Well, you could be an epidemiologist, You can also work as a data analyst, medical researcher, policy advisor, public health official. The list goes on. Because of the core skills of epidemiology, biostatistics, and public health are highly applicable to all sorts of different jobs. Same goes with your potential places of employment. Where can I work? Medical research institutes, government departments, international bodies, pharmaceutical companies, general research hospitals, universities as well. My own career has had me working with the Department of Health as part of the COVID-19 response, but my own personal research is in sexual health. So my research interests are in antimicrobial resistance in chlamydia, and also sexual behavior and what drives spread of STIs in populations as well. Okay. So if that sounds interesting to you, you can also find out more. So that's just a QR code to the course handbook. You're free to give me an email or have a chat with our lovely recruitment officers, Saxon and Ian. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
There's a question in the chat about what's the advantages of doing Master of Science epidemiology versus Master of Public Health epidemiology.
Sure.
Yeah, we're going to answer that quickly because then we're going to we'll pass on to
Sure. So the question was, what's the advantage of a Master of Science course versus an MPH course? So the Master of Science hard bakes you into the research track. You have to do a research project as part of your Master of Science degree. The MPH research project is an option. I'll also add that the Master of Science course has 6 core subjects in epidemiology and biostatistics, whereas the MPH has less demand on epi and biostat subjects. They have different core subjects, more leaning into public health and leadership and policy design, things of that nature. Whereas in the Master of Science, it's a little bit more quote unquote hard science with epidemiology and biostatistics. Okay.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll pass on to James.
Cool. Okay. What do we start with? Oh no, I thought I was going to get the questions.
Oh,
All right. So the first question was, why would I study?
why would you study this? Where will it take
All right. You study maths and statistics because you like maths and statistics. Where will it take you? The amounts of careers that come out are pretty much anything that's computational, numerical, analytical. So that's basically the answer to the questions, but I've expanded that a little bit. So the sorts of career outcomes. So qualified mathematicians are kind of in demand everywhere. You often see graduates of mathematics getting headhunted and get above average salaries. That's kind of typical for undergraduate and graduate as well. The sorts of careers you end up in are quantitative things, lots of stuff listed there, tech companies, software development, analytical things, stuff like that. But of course, academia, which is a big focus. So why would you want to do a master's if you've already done an undergraduate? Because you've already got a lot of those skills if you've done an undergraduate. Well, the reason to do an MSc, I also say or GDA, because that's another option to do kind of graduate level things in math and stats, is that you take the skills you've got from your bachelor's degree, where you've got lots of core technical skills, but you then get to combine them with doing a research project. So you get to experience what it's like to actually do research. But then you also combine that with some professional skills subjects as well to enable you to be able to go into research through a doctor of philosophy or into industry somehow in employment. So what do you do? So why? Actually, why do people coming out of an MSc in math and stats, why are they employable? Well, you have an in-depth knowledge of mathematics and statistics, which is obviously very useful for a lot of different careers. You also have strong skill set for problem solving, dealing with things logically, thinking like that, which is really good for analytical careers and stuff. Also, you have a facility to learn new advanced topics, and you can demonstrate that you can learn new things, which is always important. You also, because of the research project as well, have rigorous training in meeting strict deadlines and being able to clearly and professionally explain and report on new technical results. So because you're going to have to do research, you're going to have to write a thesis, you're going to have to do presentation and research. Lots of skills you get doing that are very transferable, not just in academia, but outside as well. And also you have to manage some kind of multi-component project. So you have to do, as in all the math of science areas, you have to do a project which is spanning multiple semesters. So why would you want to do a Master of Mathematics in the School of Mathematics and Statistics? Well, it's got a very flexible course structure. It's not quite as flexible as some of the ones we've heard about tonight, where you can choose 200, 300 subjects, but you've kind of got 30 plus mathematics and statistics subjects specifically designed for the masters. They've got good work facilities. You get access to specific dedicated offices for MSc students. You participate in original research. So as part of your research project, you'll work with academics, mathematicians, and these projects are obviously supervised by world-leading academics. And there's this whole find an expert page where you can see all about those. Also, one of the really interesting things, and I think this came out of one of the things earlier, that one of the best things is actually interacting with other people. So interacting with other highly motivated postgraduate students who've got similar interests. So I think we have around 200 students doing maths and statistics, and they're all sharing offices, all talking to each other, doing similar subjects. So you learn a lot from your peers as well, which is really great. And also, just to sort of farm up as well. So with math and stats, it's not just one specialization. Along with a lot of things, we have lots of different varieties. So you can do applied mathematics, you can do mathematical physics. So that's kind of jointly with physics as well. Operations research, pure mathematics or statistics and stochastic processes. And each one of these specializations has different core subjects, different electives that you can take a mixture from all of them and kind of make up the subject you want. That's very quickly why you want to do maths and stats. But the fundamental reason is you like maths and stats. Because otherwise, it's not really fun.
Thank you to James, Andrew, and Daniel. That concludes the end of the Science Graduate Information Night. Thank you for those who have stuck around since the start. And you've probably learned about a lot of programs. Hopefully you've grabbed some merch. If you do have questions for our Master of Science specialist, just keep in mind that it is 8 o'clock. So if you have burning questions for them, please, ask them quickly. Otherwise, if you do get stuck and have a question in future, this is the best way to get in contact with my team. You can give us a call at stop 1 and they can direct you to us. Or the best way, if you want to directly contact us, is to book an online appointment with myself, one-on-one. We can chat online, or submit an inquiry. The one-on-one appointments are available Monday to Friday between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. with myself, Will, or my other colleague, Lachlan, who's in India. But so please reach out to us if you have a question, if you need to compare between programs, or if you're just getting a little bit stuck with how it all works. We're here to help. That's what we do for a job. So thank you so much for coming. If you haven't grabbed food for those people in person, please grab some food before you leave, because I'll be taking it all home otherwise. And thank you to our lovely academics for joining us. Otherwise,
if you're interested in anything upcoming, we've got our graduate research webinar coming up next week, our data science webinar coming up next week. We've done our DVM webinar series, and the Master Environment course guide is available there as well. Otherwise, I'll leave it on that slide. Thank you so much.